Yakkha, also erroneously spelled as Yakkha, is a language spoken in parts of Nepal, Darjeeling district and Sikkim. The Yakkha-speaking villages are located to the east of the Arun River, in the southern part of the Sankhuwasabha district and in the northern part of the Dongkuta district of Nepal. About 14,000 people still speak the language, out of 17,003 ethnic Yakkha in Nepal. Genealogically, Yakkha belongs to the Eastern Kiranti languages and is in one subgroup with several Limbu languages, e.g. Belhair, Athpare, Chintang and Chuling. Ethnically, however, the Yakkha people perceive themselves as distinct from the other Kiranti groups such as Limbu. Geographical distribution. Mughali is spoken between Mugakola and Sinuakola on the eastern banks of the Arun River in Dongkuta district, Kosi zone, Nepal, in the villages VDCs of Muga, Pakribas, and Falate. Phangduwali is spoken above the Mugakola headwaters in Pakribas VDC, Dongkuta district, Kosi zone, Nepal. Lumba Yakkha is spoken in Arkhal Jipur and Marak Katahare VDCs, northern Dongkuta district, Kosi zone, Nepal. Phonology. Vowels. Yakkha has the 5 vowels a, e, I, o, u. There are no centralized vowels as in other Kiranti languages. Variation between short and long vowels is possible, but this is not a phonemic contrast, because no minimal pairs can be found. Diphthongs such as oit, uit, ith can be found in some words such as uamala, steep descent, or the interjection hoi, enough. Consonants. The consonants are shown in the table below. The voiced consonants in brackets have doubtful status. They are not phonemes, because no minimal pairs can be established. But they are also not motivated by a phonological rule. Furthermore, the voiced consonants occur only in a few words, and some of them are Nepali loans. Examples with initial voiced consonants are gogoba, an insect worm, ghak, all, jepa, really, agak, stick. Notes. A typical feature of Eastern Kiranti languages is the merger of voiced and voiceless obstruents, and also Yakkha exhibits this feature. Voicing occurs however optionally between vowels and after nasals. Unaspirated obstruents undergo this voicing rule more regularly than aspirated obstruents. Voiced consonants that are not motivated by a phonological rule exist, but they are rare. Another feature of the Yakkha sound system is the change of proto**r and **r to y, e.g. the word for salt is yum in Yakkha, but rum in Puma, Central Kiranti, and in Dumi, Western Kiranti. The rhotic r is not found word initially, but in cr clusters and in intervocalic position, as in makrona, black, and tarakma, start. Several morphophonological processes operate in Yakkha, so that the underlying forms are not easy to establish. Many of these processes have to do with substitution by a nasal, e.g. in compound verbs like sunkama, itch. The underlying verb stems are, sut, and, ca. To take an example from inflection, the verb sapthakma, like, is inflected sapthamakuna, they duel like him. Other examples of morphophonological processes are the change of underlying etse to esi, meaning, in order to hunt fish. Underspecified nasal prefixes assimilate in the place of articulation to the stem initial consonant, e.g. mba, your house, but n chem, your song, aka, my. Morphology. Yakkha has rich nominal and verbal morphology. Nouns inflect for case and number. Verbs inflect for person, number, singular, dual, plural, non-singular, negation, several categories in the domain of tense, aspect and mood. Intransitive verbs, both actor and undergoer are coreferenced on the verb. The category of inclusive-exclusive is found in the verbal morphology and in the possessive pronouns and prefixes. Pronouns. Yakkha pronouns distinguish between singular, dual and plural number, and the possessive pronouns additionally distinguish between the inclusion and the exclusion of the addressee. The third person only has singular and non-singular forms. The possessive pronouns have developed from the personal pronouns and the genitive marker ka. The possessive prefixes obviously are grammaticalized possessive pronouns. They can be used instead of the possessive pronouns, e.g. one could say aka pa or a pa, both meaning my house. Sounds represented by n in the table are under specified nasals. Interrogatives and indefinite reference. Yakkha has the following interrogative pronouns and other interrogatives: isa, who, ina, what, iya, what. If many items or uncountables are asked for, hetna, which, iman, how, iya, why, hetni, where, hetni, when. If a certain item is asked for, ina will be used, but if an event is in question, the root I occurs without further morphology, e.g. I lexa. What happened? Reduplication of the pronouns may result in indefinite reference, e.g. hetni. Some time. Case system. Yakkha distinguishes the unmarked absolutive case, the ergative a, the genitive ka, ga, the locative pe, b, the ablative case ba and the commutative case nu, and the instrumental case a. The absolutive marks subjects of intransitive verbs and objects of transitive verbs. In some verb classes, in the sense of valency classes, objects are marked with a locative or an instrumental. The ergative marks the agents of transitive verbs except for first and second person pronouns, which are in the unmarked nominative. Examples for absolutive and ergative case overt arguments are often omitted in natural discourse, but the examples contain them to illustrate the case. Ka kimina, I go. You tundwana. He understands him. As in many other Kiranti languages, there is an ergative instrumental syncretism, as both cases are marked by a. The instrumental is used to mark instruments in a broad sense, and also for temporal reference, lukwak a. With by means of a stone. Stone ins, ki bella a. Thesedes. This time ins, the genitive, marked by ka. Ga marks the possessed item in possessive constructions, and materials, ak ka ni. My name. I gen, prefix name, si ga sago. Wooden stool. Wood gen stool. The locative marks locations and goals of movement and transfer. Korak pe kuwa. There is beer in the bowl. Bowl lock beer. The commutative marks the accompaniment by someone or something. Also adverbials and adverbial clauses can be built with the commutative na da nu. With you. Suha nu. Sour. In adverbial use, e.g. taste sour. Verbal morphology. The verbal morphology is very complex, which is a typical feature of Kiranti languages. The outline given here necessarily provides a simplified picture. The verbal morphology is predominantly represented by suffixes, but one prefix slot exists, that is filled with an underspecified nasal that codes either third-person plural or negation. Person and number of both actor and undergoer are indicated on the verb, and these affixes may differ according to the semantic role of their referent. For instance, the suffix ka, ga codes second person. You. Regardless of the semantic role, while the suffix m codes only first and second person agents, and the suffix u only codes third person undergoer. There are syncretisms, for instance the already mentioned suffix m, that stands for both agreement with first and second person plural agent. Some relations are coded by a portmanteau morpheme, e.g. the first person acting on the second is coded by nen, i.e. I understand, call, kiss etc. You. Supplemented by number suffixes if necessary. Another feature typical for Kiranti verbal morphology is the copying of nasals into syllable codas in the suffix string of a finite verb. For instance, the negated form of tum meet si u, si a. We dual, excl, understand them, is n dum me ncun n na, where the negation marker n is copied several times. As for tense, the nonpast is overtly marked by me or wa. Both suffixes have their origin in grammaticalized lexical verbs do and be exist, respectively. They occupy different slots in the verbal suffix template. The past is marked by the suffix a, which is often elided to avoid hiatus in underlying vowel sequences. The perfect tense is built by the addition of the suffixes ma or uks to the past morpheme, and the past perfect tense is built by further addition of the suffix sa to this suffix string. As for mood, the imperative is also coded by the suffix a, e.g. abba. Come. In transitive verbs with a third-person patient, the overt suffix is u, and the imperative suffix is not overtly realized. The subjunctive mood has no dedicated marker, it is marked precisely by the absence of anything but the agreement morphology, e.g. siyahops Shall we have tea? T sip 3p1a. The subjunctive mood also expresses warnings, suggestions and potential situations in some subordinate clause types. References. Bibliography. Driem, George van 1990, The Fall and Rise of the Phoneme R, in Eastern Kiranti, Sound Change in Tibeto-Burman. Bulletin of the School of Oriental and African Studies 53, 83–86. Driem, George van 1994, The Yakkha Verb, Interpretation and Analysis of the Amruwa Material, a Kiranti language of Eastern Nepal. Bulletin of the School of Oriental and African Studies 57, 347–355. Driem, George van 2004, Nuerik and Mahakaranti. In Saxena, Anjou, Himalayan Languages, Past and Present. Mouton de Gruyter, Berlin. Grierson, George A. 1909, Tibeto-Burman Family, Part 1, General Introduction, Specimens of the Tibetan Dialects, the Himalayan Dialects and the North Assam Group, Vol. 3 of Linguistic Survey of India, Superintendent of Government Printing, India, Calcutta. Kongran, Ramji 2007a, Yakkha Jatiko Samskar Ra Samskriti, Yakkha Indigenous Peoples Tradition and Culture. Karat Yakkha Chuma, Indigenous Peoples Yakkha Organization, Kathmandu. Kongran, Ramji 2007b, Yakkha Nepali English Dictionary. Current Yakkha Chuma, Indigenous Peoples Yakkha Organization, Kathmandu. Winter, Werner, Gerd Hansen, Alphonse Weidert and Bikram Ingwaba Suba 1996, A Synoptic Glossary of Athpare, Belhair and Yakkha. Linkum Europa, München. External links. Shako, Diana, 2015. A Grammar of Yakkha. Berlin, Language Science Press Open Access. ELAR Archive of Documentation and Grammatical Description of Yakkha, Nepal.